Hi there and welcome to Penguin Learning. In this National 4 Maths video, we are going to be looking at pie charts in today's lesson. After watching this video, you will know what a pie chart is, and you'll know when and why they are used when we want to represent data. You will then learn how to draw a pie chart by following this example in the video. And then finally, at the end, we will look at some other examples where pie charts are used in real life situations. So, let's get started.
Ooh la la!
So to begin, we are going to ask ourselves the question, what is a pie chart? And basically all a pie chart is a type of graph in which a circle is divided into sectors, and each of these sectors within a pie chart represents a proportion of something that we are measuring. So this is an example of a pie chart right here, and its task is to display the holiday destinations of pupils. And the way it does this is we have a circle to begin with, and the circle is then divided into sectors, and each one of these sectors represents one of the holiday destinations. And when we look at it this way, we can understand why it's called a pie chart, because the chart is circular, just like the shape of a pie or even a pizza. And then each one of these sectors that divides the circle or the pie represents a slice. And typically when we use a pie chart, we are good at displaying information in a clear way when we have roughly between 4 and 8 different categories or 4 and 8 sectors. And these numbers are just a rough estimate, but typically any less than 4 categories, then a pie chart will look a bit funny and there would be a better way to display this information. And if we have any more than 8 categories roughly, then it ends up just a little bit too messy. So anywhere between 4 and 8 categories is suitable for a pie chart. So looking at this pie chart in particular, we have 5 categories that represent holiday destinations, and each of these 5 categories are Spain, America, Scotland, Greece and France. And we can see that each of these 5 categories have its own slice of the pie chart, which represents how large or small a proportion it takes up. And that means that in a pie chart, these slices don't represent numbers, but in fact the proportion, or you can think of it as a percentage of the overall pie. So for example, we can see here that Spain has the largest slice of the pie chart, so that would mean that Spain is the most popular holiday destination out of the pupils. But we can see here that France has the smallest slice, so that would mean that it's the least popular holiday destination out of the pupils. And finally, one last thing to notice is, in order to make the pie chart look clear and display information correctly, it's important that each category has its own different colour. So we can see here that Spain is this sort of turquoise colour, America is red, Scotland is blue, Greece is green, and France is orange. And because it's displayed in this way, we can clearly see how big or small a proportion each of these holiday destinations are within the pie chart. And the main purpose of today's lesson is to learn how we can gather the information of asking pupils where they went on holiday and transforming this information into this pie chart here. We're going to go through the entire process and what is needed to create a pie chart like this. So to begin constructing a pie chart, we have to begin with a question and a purpose behind it. And our question for this one is asking ourselves, where do pupils in my class go on holiday? And by having this question, this then allows us to take action and ask each pupil where they go on holiday, and that would allow us to gather data on this. And let's say we have a class of 60 pupils, and each one of these pupils answered this question of where they go on holiday. And then after we asked each of these 60 pupils this question, this is the results that we got. So we found out that 24 pupils went on holiday to Spain, 15 pupils went on holiday to America, 3 went to France, 12 went to Scotland, and 6 went to Greece. And now, after we've gathered this information, it is now our job to transform these results into a way that we can put it into a pie chart. And this information by itself is no good just to put into a pie chart straight away. What we have to do is transform these values of the numbers of pupils into proportions of the circle that they make up. And the way that we do this is by using angles that make up the circle in order to transform this data. And the key thing to remember about pie charts, and circles in particular, is that 360 degrees is what makes up the angles within a circle. And that's because we know that a right angle is 90 degrees, and within a full circle we have 4 right angles or 4 90-degree angles, and if we add 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90, that gives us our 360 degrees needed to make up the angles within a circle. So first of all, what we have to do is transform each one of these categories into the percentage that they make up of the overall pupils, and then after that we transform the percentage into an angle within the circle. So let's have a look at how we can transform the number of pupils for each holiday destination into a percentage of the total amount of pupils. So beginning with Spain, what we do to transform this into a percentage is we have the number of pupils divided by the total amount of pupils, which is 60, and then to get it into a percentage we times it by 100. And solving this with a calculator we get an answer of 40, and that means that the percentage of pupils that went to Spain is 40%. And then we can do the same thing for America by having 15, the number of pupils, over the total number of pupils, 60, and then we times this again by 100 and we get 25%. And then we repeat this process for every one of the categories for the number of pupils, and we can get the percentage of each of them. So that would mean that Spain has a total percentage of 40%, America has 25%, France has 5%, Scotland has 20%, and Greece has 10%. So now we know each of the percentages, we know how much of the circle that each of the categories is going to take up. So for example, we know now that Spain will take up 40% of the circle, America will take up 25%, and so on. So now it's our job to find a way of how we can represent each one of these percentages on the pie chart. And as I mentioned, we do this by changing the percentage of pupils into a proportion of the angles that make up the circle. So how do we do this transformation into an angle? Well, we know that the total amount of degrees that makes up a circle is 360 degrees. So all we have to do is take the percentage of 360 for each of these destinations. So let's begin with Spain again. If we were to take 40% of 360 degrees, that's the same as saying 40 divided by 100 multiplied by 360. And then if we do this in our calculators, we get an answer of 144 degrees. Now, if we do the same thing for America, we would have 25% of the 360 degrees, so that would be 25 divided by 100 multiplied by 360, and that gives us an answer of 90 degrees. And once we do this process for each one of these, then we have the angle for each one of the destinations that makes up within the circle. And if we add up all of these angles, then we will get an answer equal to the total amount of 360 degrees. And then the final step of drawing a pie chart is by measuring out each one of these angles by using this device here called a protractor. And a protractor is basically this little device here, which can either be a semicircle like this or a full circle, and on the device we have these little markings indicating the angles within degrees. So starting here from the 0 point, which indicates 0 degrees from the point that we are measuring, this line here would indicate the angle of 144 degrees needed for Spain. Here we have 90 degrees for America, 18 degrees for France, 72 degrees for Scotland, and finally 36 degrees for Greece. So how we would do this on the circle to make a pie chart is we would first begin by deciding where the 0 point is going to go, and then we would measure the first angle. And after the first angle's been done, we would then move the 0 point to wherever the size of the angle was, and then we would draw the next angle from that point, and then we would keep moving the 0 and measuring all of the angles until eventually we get back to the end and we can make up the full circle. And then finally, all we have to do now is decide a colour for each one of the categories within the pie chart, and here we have a completed version. So we can see that Spain makes the angle of 144 degrees, America makes up a 90 degree angle, France only has a little 18 degree angle, Scotland has a 72 degree angle, and finally Greece has this portion here of 36 degrees. And it doesn't really matter in which order that we put these. The important thing is that we measure correctly so that the pie chart gives an accurate representation of our information. So before we wrap this lesson up, I'm just going to go over some other examples of pie charts that we might have come across before. In our home economics class, we might be familiar with this Eat Well guide, which asks us the question, what foods should our diet consist of? And this pie chart consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories that make it up. And we can clearly see that this category here, with fruits and vegetables, make up the largest proportion of the pie chart, followed by the whole grain sector. And then going smaller again, we have this meat and protein sector, and then the dairy sector, and then finally the little small amount within here consists of oils and spreads. So this is just another example of a pie chart that we can see in our everyday lives. And finally, here's one other survey style pie chart where we asked 20 people their favourite movie genres. And from the results, we got that 4 people said sci-fi was their favourite genre, 1 person said drama, 6 people said romance, 5 said action, and 4 said comedy. And looking at the pie chart, we can clearly see that romance was the favourite movie genre, taking up a total of 30% of the pie chart, and the least favourite was drama, only taking up a small 5% of the total pie chart. So let's go over a quick recap on this lesson of pie charts. So we said that a pie chart is a type of graph in which a circle is divided into sectors or categories. And for the example we used, we had 5 different categories, each representing a different holiday destination. And the way that each of these categories are represented on a pie chart is by the proportion of how much angle they take up within the circle. And then we said there was this 3-step process in order to draw out a pie chart. So we were given the number of pupils that went to each one of these countries, and our first step was to calculate the percentage that each one of these countries took up as a total of the amount of students. Step 2 was then to transform these percentages into an angle that could be represented on a pie chart, and we did this by multiplying the percentages by the total amount of degrees that made up a circle, which was 360 degrees. And then finally, for step 3, once we had each of the angles for each of the different categories, we could then use a protractor to draw out these angles one by one on the pie chart. And one last thing to bear in mind, we said that the bigger the slice means that it's bigger the proportion, so the larger the amount of that category. And on the flip side, the smaller the slice or the smaller the category means that it's smaller the proportion, and that means for whatever we were measuring, there was less of that category. So I hope this video has been helpful in teaching you how to draw a pie chart, and if that's been the case, make sure and give the video a thumbs up. But if you have any questions on this topic, don't be afraid to drop a question down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you'd like to see more content like this, make sure and subscribe to our channel, or you can head over to our website at penguin-learning.com. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.